Hello and welcome to Borders Rugby Special for our first Friday night game under the Philiphaugh floodlights. This evening, Selkirk take on Jedforest in what will not only be a Premiership fixture, but also the final game of Pool A in the Border League. Tonight, Selkirk have the chance to top that pool, but only if they manage to secure a try bonus or win the game by at least 11 points. Now let's head over to Dale Clancy in the commentary box, where he's joined by Sam Mathews.
It's going to be Selkirk to get the game underway, and Aaron McComb, co-captain here, and it's perhaps a change in luck for Selkirk because most of their big players have been able to shake off the injuries in what has been a really intense campaign so far. Selkirk sitting in fourth, 10 games played, nicely nestled in there, 3 points ahead of Glasgow Hawks, who they beat on the road last weekend. Ross Maben blasts the whistle, and Aaron McComb gets play underway here at Philiphaugh. Right-footed kick downfield, trundles into the hands of Mason Cullen, who looks to try and make an immediate impact on his opposite man, Ben Pickles. And speaking off air before the game, we looked at that as a really enticing battle, as it's almost been plucked out the air by James Head, who almost got to grips with that. And I would have fancied him from about 15 metres out. He certainly had a chance, but just couldn't get to grips with the ball and get the opening score here. And Jedforest will be hoping to try and get out of this defensive area early on, but Selkirk off to a bright start, managing to pin the visitors back from what's a scrappy restart, or a kick-off from Aaron McComb that James Head almost was the benefactor in the end, as Aidan Bambrick just has a little look at the scrum as Ross Maben brings it together. It's going to be an interesting battle up front as well, because they're two big squads, and Selkirk have got the nudge on early doors, and that's going ahead at a rate of knots, and it's just been plucked up the back from Munro Job. It's an acute line there as well from Selkirk, who look to try and unlock that defence early on, and the ball's going a little bit wider, and they eventually get over, and it looks like it's going to be an opening score for Selkirk here, and it's a debut try for Allan Ferrie, who's making his first appearance for Selkirk after his second appearance, for Selkirk after his stint at the Southern Knights, a draft player, and it's certainly been a bright start for Selkirk, coming out with a lot of intensity, and they get the first score. It's certainly an intense few fixtures for Jedforest, and it's come off the line out relatively cleanly. It's up to being picked up by Philiphaugh at the back of the line out, but he does well. It didn't go to plan, but it's ended up in the hands of the big prop as Andrew McComb now feeds on to Munro Job. He's got some support out on the outside in Lachlan Ferguson, but he's not needed on this occasion. And now James Head trundling up, and the ball is back on a Selkirk side again. Aaron McComb just teeing it up nicely for a box kick downfield and puts some good height in it and allows his wingers to chase up, but it's controlled by the foot from Lewis Young, but it just went straight into the hands of a Selkirk player. Almost pinpoint there from Aaron McComb, just to put it in between the fielders there in the backspace for Jedforest. It was Luke Petty who made the carry upfield as Selkirk look to go through the phases now. Craig Jackson, he finds Ross Nixon, who stabs downfield. He's getting caught up in the clar in the ground here, the wet conditions here at Philiphaugh, but it's a job for Robbie Gibb to try and escape from his own half, but he's been wrapped up well there by James Head, who's had a really impressive opening 5 minutes in this fixture. Now Philiphaugh getting across the field, covering the spaces as Jedforest look like they've got some numbers up on this stand side. Look to try and release Mason Cullen, but he's been well defended there by Ben Pickles. Two players who know each other very well from their time in age grade rugby, playing for the East Borders. And it's Mason Cullen who's been penalised from a good tackle there from Ben Pickles. And Selkirk are now in a very attractive attacking position. Because Bambrick rolls the ball into the scrum, and that is being charged forward by Selkirk. It's now been squirted out the scrum. It's now into the hands of Craig Jackson. It's a bit unorthodox from Selkirk, as the ball is just popping out every single breakdown possible. It illustrates the conditions that we've got here at Selkirk. As it's come back on the Jedforest side and kicked downfield as Aaron McComb, Ben Pickles looked to try and gather that, it's just bounced off his shoulder, and the assistant referee having a word with Ross Maben. I think this is perhaps will be a put into the scrum to Jedforest, but they're lucky to get away with that there, because Munro Job looked like he had it under control with Aaron McComb behind him, but just a little bit of mix up of communication. Finlay Scott, the hooker who did spend a bit of time with the Southern Knights, finds himself back at Jedforest, obviously taking on the kicking duties as well as the throwing in. as he tries to find his captain in the line out, and he does just that as Clark Skeldon is hoisted highest. And Finlay Scott gets there to the maul. Offers his services at the rear of that maul as Jedforest look to try and exploit some strength of their own on this dominant Selkirk pack. They keep the maul pretty cohesive, but Bruce Riddle was all over that. But he does drop to a knee, and Ross Maben's got a keen eye on that as it does come back on the Jedforest side. Yourston at first receiver and finds Gregor Young. Now over into the hands of Lewis Young. And now Robbie Shearer-Gibb coming off his work and dancing in field. He makes it towards the 5 metre line, just at halfway, as Lewis and Gregor Young now mix up over on the far side of the banking. As Bambrick looks to try and spot a gap and offload to Gary Young now. The number 8 charging upfield, offloads to Paxton. There's a couple of Selkirk players over that ball, and it's been brilliantly stolen there by Bruce Riddle. And Bruce Riddle looking in the health of his life, to be honest with you. He's really worked on his fitness and physique over the last few years, and it's paying dividends now as Aaron McComb works hard to try and protect that ball. It's came back on a Selkirk side, but it's getting pretty messy on the halfway line. Aaron McComb now does recycle himself well to the rear of the ruck. His body's hurt Allan, one of them being Robbie Yourston's. Nixon now playing first receiver. Does pass out field to Josh Welsh, who's clattered by 2 Jedforest players. He's driven back in the tackle, but manages to get the ball back on a Selkirk side. Scott McClymont there, protecting Aaron McComb as he now puts the box kick in downfield. Jedforest do well to get back in. It's Robbie Shearer-Gibb again, sweeping up. Looks to go inside of Lachlan Ferguson, but he's been well marshalled over on that bank inside here at Philiphaugh. The 15 minutes gone here, it's still Selkirk 5, Jedforest 0. And it's going to be a penalty to Jedforest on the halfway line, and they'll get the chance to kick downfield and perhaps launch an attack of their own from this next line out. Finlay Scott has been one of those players that has been a little bit unlucky with the quality of hooker that we've had in the Borders recently. The likes of, we've got obviously Fraser Rennick, Russell Anderson. As he again hits his target at the back of that line out, Skeldon finds Paxton, who's got Wardrop on his shoulder, who then finds Yourston, who's just running tight on the shoulder of the towering second row. And now it's the captain charging upfield, the ball tucked firmly underneath his right arm. As Bambrick looks to try and get the ball away quickly from the breakdown, as Paxton finds himself at first receiver, when he finds himself pretty much back where he started with the ball as he's driven back in the tackle. Bambrick now finds McGough. McGough linking up in midfield as Jedforest are trying to unlock this Selkirk defence. It's been a defence which has been difficult to breach at times, considered on an average 18 points per game. As Jedforest juggled the ball as it got closer and closer to the Selkirk defensive line, but was able to protect himself just before he was clattered by these white jerseys. As Skeldon again carries centre field as Jedforest make their way towards the Selkirk 22. Bambrick now, the scrum half. He finds Yourston. Yourston has got Gary Young just charging straight down the throat of Ross Nixon, who slips the tackle. Ferrie having to cover for the inside centre. James Head now filtering round as Wardrop. He finds Yourston. Yourston filters the ball out to Mason Cullen, who just stamps his feet on the ground and tries to bounce back in field off his left foot. Again being well swamped there by the Selkirk defensive line. As Clark Skeldon carries yet again. There's been 3 or 4 carries in this last phase of play. Jedforest finding it very difficult to try and breach that Selkirk 22. And Clarkson's having to act as an auxiliary 9, but he's protected the ball. Ross Maben now is going to have a conversation with the Jedforest captain. Well, he's having a conversation with Ross Nixon, but it's going to be another penalty. And I would think at this stage in the game, we're at 18 minutes gone, I would imagine that Finlay Scott would fancy a pop at the sticks.
What's called?
It's their first real visit to the Selkirk 22, and they get the chance to leave with 3 points. It's going to fall down to the right boot of the Jedforest hooker. 56 points so far this season in the Premiership from the boot. He certainly gets underneath it, and you can make that 59. A successful penalty there, and Jedforest are now within 2. And it's not came off cleanly, and it's fallen straight into the hands of Riddle. And he charges up and carries Gary Munro along with him. And now Selkirk look to try and pounce. They smell blood here from 5 metres away from the Jedforest line. And James Head is one of those players who's looking to try and just nudge his way across, and Munro Job now lurking in the wider channels, offering a good option for Aaron McComb. And now Shafajak has just bundled over Robbie Yourston. The Selkirk look to get closer and closer to this Jedforest line. The runner's a bit keen there as now Craig Jackson bounces back in field. He's looking to try and make some yards, but Selkirk having to concede here. A little arm in the face there of Craig Jackson from one of the youngs. But they do well to bring the ball back on their side, and it's Andrew McComb who's trucking it up. The ball coming away quickly there. I think it looks like it was Scott McClymont who was sneaking about. It's not, it's Allan Ferrie. He is the player who's just scooped the ball up at the back of that ruck, and he snakes over for his second score of the game. Aaron McComb offers you something slightly different at scrum half, because he offers you a conversion attempt that's just smacked off the upright, just from the left-hand side of the posts, and the dejected scrum half looks slightly disappointed as he trundles his way back over the halfway line. Selkirk will be hoping this is a fruitful 4 minutes where they can build some points as the scrum is steady and Munro Job takes it off the back. Aaron McComb has now got a chance to try and release some of his teammates, but opts to go it alone. He trucks up as the forwards now look to just pick and go quickly as they can see the Jedforest try line is in their sights. Aaron McComb has managed to get to the back of the ruck. Now Munro Job acting as the scrum half finds James Head, who's driven laterally across the 5 metre line as Luke Petty now dishes the ball out to Andrew McComb, and Selkirk certainly looking like they fancy another try here. Scott McClymont, they've got 3 tries so far this season, but it's going to be a very hard ask to score from there as there's an abundance of Jedforest players in his road. Bruce Riddle, I think if there's a player who deserves a score in this first half, he's perhaps one of them. Now Aaron McComb having to try and dig about, but he's just nudged over by Philiphaugh. As Selkirk have to try and protect this ball if they want to get anything from this phase of play. Luke Petty just scooping that up, passing it on to a teammate. Ball now is presented at the back of the ruck. Selkirk charging forward, looking to try and get another score here before half-time, and they managed to do just that. Just as it looked like Jedforest had marshalled that area, they score, and it is the captain, Luke Petty, who managed just to scoop up that ball and squeeze over the line. And I think going from the scrum, dominant scrum, steady scrum against the replacement Paulo Ferreira, it just shows the energy that Luke Petty has. And Selkirk sitting in 4th position in the table. They won't go any higher if they win this evening, but there is an opportunity to go into the Border League final if they win by a bonus point or a clear 11 points. They would go above Hoyk in that pool and find their way into contest for some silverware from the winners of Pool B. As it stands, they would be in that position. The referee has a little shrill of the whistle there as Luke Petty is just having a little bit out of Elliot Lauder in the back row.
Yeah, he's taken exception to something Elliot was doing. There must have been some dark arts going on in the scrum there, because Luke Petty had a real issue with something that Elliot Lauder had done during that play.
No, I'm speaking, thank you. No one else. Yeah? When I'm at that side of the scrum, there's been no issues. So it doesn't start now. We're going to go another scrum. Selkirk's ball. Time on, Selkirk's ball.
Very rarely holds his tongue. He's looking at a bit of disgust over at the assistant referee and encasing his point as he clears his boots and looks to now get on with the scrummaging duties, of which there's certainly the whole Selkirk pack have been dominant so far in this fixture.
One thing's for sure, with the ref and the assistant official now had their attention drawn to it, Elliot Lauder will not be doing that again, whatever he was doing in the previous scrum.
I wouldn't count on it. Jedforest have already had a red card this season, 3 yellow cards. So if I was I'm not a betting man, but I would say they might chance their arm again in this Tetchy Border derby. It's been pretty well played so far. There've been a couple of niggles and a couple of bits in the close quarters, but that scrum again, Luke Petty getting the upper hand on the Jedforest yet again as McComb breaks from the scrum, finds Jackson, who finds Cottrell, and he sclaffs a kick downfield at centre field, and it's been almost gathered by Mason Cullen, who lets it trundle in between his legs. And now he looks to go in between and splinter the Selkirk defence as the bodies pile in, one of them being Ross Nixon, and Jedforest recycle the ball, give it to Yourston, who quickly gives it to Gregor Young, who's got Robbie Shearer-Gibb on the wing. Almost found Robbie Yourston on an acute line, but James Head got there quickly, and the Selkirk players get there quickly on the halfway line to clear the jackal from Jedforest. Now Luke Petty, he tips it on there to the 2 try scorer Allan Ferrie. He got the first 2 tries in this game. Aaron McComb, I think he's had enough of this. He kicks it off the field of play, and it takes the first half proceedings to a close, and as it stands, it's Selkirk 15, Jedforest 3. It's going to be Gary Munro to get play back underway in this second half, and Jedforest playing towards the town end as they just puncher that ball downfield straight down the throat of Scott McClymont, who very rarely holds back in attack as he haunches over and looks to try and make an impact. Another player making it look an impact is James Bett, who's came off the bench at half time. Just having a little look around to see who he has replaced. I can still see Bruce Riddle out there as the ball is just popped into the air and comes off of the knee of a Jedforest player. Back into the hands of Craig Jackson, who looks to split Robbie Shearer-Gibb and also Lewis Young. I'm just having a little look, and I think it is Philiphaugh who's been replaced for James Bett. So Bruce Riddle will move across in the scrum as Selkirk find some space in this game of aerial ping pong between the two sides. Gary Munro is the player in action now. Has to kick the ball downfield and it bounces. Craig Jackson just grabs it just before it goes off the field of play, throws the dummy in, and it was Gregor Young who bought it on that occasion, but he had very few options other than to try and stop the pass if he was going to just spray a big ball out wide. Aaron McComb gets the ball away from the base as Ross Nixon finds some space in behind and looks to try and turn the tide as he goes against the grain. Lewis Young covering the 22. Drops the ball onto his right boot and kicks it off the field of play. James Head is taking up proceedings for Selkirk here as they look to try and build an attack from that line out. We'll bring you constant updates throughout the evening of how Melrose are getting on at the green yards, but Selkirk have just splintered the defence, and Josh Welsh is going to sail in for the bonus point try for Selkirk. He dives over, and brilliant timing from Josh Welsh as he manages to get his 70th try in Selkirk colours. And it's Selkirk 20, Jedforest 3.
Yeah, and he's going to get a lot more tries with plays like that from Ross Nixon. Ross Nixon drew the defender perfectly, and that little one-handed offload just flat as you can against that line. It doesn't give a covering defence any chance to get over.
Jackson to try and get the first kick for Selkirk colours this evening, and he's successful from the tee. Craig Jackson gets off the mark, gets a conversion, and James Bett is going to get a throw into the line out. A player that I rate very, very highly, coming onto the field to try and make an impact. He finds his target in James Head, and now McComb from his toes manages just to pick it up. Jackson throws the flattest ball you could imagine into the clutches of Scott McClymont, who just manages just to ghost through the hole that was left there. There was a huge chasm in the Jedforest defence, and now Cottrell looks to try and get the ball, but it's just been spilled. I think he was perhaps thought it was far too good to be true for the fullback as he burst into the line and just couldn't gather the ball, as Jedforest now have it back on their side as Skeldon runs right down the throat of James Head but offloads to Mason Cullen, who manages to find a hole in the defence, and now he's breaking downfield. He looks to go round the first defender, but he's been well marshalled there by the scrambled Selkirk defence. They get back, ball offloaded off the ground. Munro, he manages to get the ball wide. It's now into the hands of Kyle Grieve. They set up the platform just shy of their own 10 metre line, 15 metres in from the stand side. Now Clark Skeldon looks to try and draw this Selkirk defence in and leave some pockets out wide as the ball now into the hands of Yourston. Yourston does find Lewis Young. He's been met by 3 or 4 Selkirk players are getting there pretty quickly. Gregor Young, the twin brother, there to try and sweep up, but Gary Munro has got the ball as the play comes down at a bit of a pedestrian pace, playing the advantage, and the referee is going to go for the scrum there. Just on the bank and on the far side, a cluster of Hoyk players are watching on at this line out. Just in front is James Bett, who finds Ferrie in the line out. It's a game which is not on their radar, Hoyk, certainly in the next 4 fixtures. Aaron McComb now feeds to Craig Jackson. He evades the first challenge from Finlay Scott, who dances back in field, but he is eventually wrapped up as Jedforest managed to thwart that attempted attack there from the experienced fly half. McComb now finds Nixon, who acts as first receiver. He finds James Head, who bounces off Robbie Yourston, and I think Yourston has come off second best, a player who's not had the best of luck with shoulders, but Pickles now has just ghosted that ball in front of Cottrell. It's just went through the legs of Lachlan Ferguson, but Robbie Yourston is still on the ground And I think he's taken an almighty clatter from James Head, and that does not look good for the Jedforest inside centre. It's a full line out there. Scott McClymont just running away from it. And it's Skeldon who's lifted highest there, just on the Jedforest 22. The Maul's not as constructive and cohesive as they probably liked, as they're being marched back by Selkirk, who're standing this up, and they're making a mess of this. And if this goes to ground, I would imagine the referee would shrill his whistle and give the put into the scrum to Selkirk. And that's exactly what happens there. And I'm just trying to, I don't know this reshuffle as well, but I don't know whether he will go into the, I think perhaps Cottrell will go into the left wing, and then Callum Anderson will go to fullback. But Jedforest from the scrum managed to find Yourston. He breaks the first challenge, and it's Jack Hamilton who's got the first chance to try and defend this. Callum Anderson was there as well, who is slotting in at fullback. Now Jedforest, Paulo Ferreira is loitering there with intent at the back of that ruck, and Jedforest again just trying to make this hard yards. Finlay Scott with his blue skull cap on, and now Ferreira looks to try and up the ante and catch Selkirk unawares as the ball comes out at the back of that ruck, and Jedforest come again. They look to try and go quickly and try and dislodge the Selkirk defence. They go left, centre field, camped right underneath the sticks. They look to get closer and closer to that line. Gary Young is just staring down Ross Maven, asking for him to award the try, but it's no doing there for the referee. They're not over the whitewash yet, as Clark Skeldon is driven back as well. And now Gary Munro is sizing up his options. He spills it into the hands of Young. Young's got some options out there as well, and Mason Cullen is the one that's going to dive over in the corner, and Jedforest do get their score, and that was all from the hard work of the forwards, eventually getting the space out wide as the Selkirk defence became quite tight towards the phases of play, and it allowed Mason Cullen loads of space over wide just to dart in at the corner for a score.
Yeah, thoroughly deserved by Jed as well, you have to say. That was great drive from the forwards. Mason Cullen's got the fast feet to get himself over the whitewash from there.
And Finlay Scott has made a great connection with that, and for an evening of poor kicking, that is certainly the pick of the bunch, as he manages to split the kindling from out wide, and it's a brilliant kick from the hooker. Jack Hamilton puts the ball into the scrum. He's starting to get a little bit ahead of steam there, but Jedforest do well to thwart that as Craig Jackson just takes it straight to the line and bursts through the first challenge, but he's got Robbie Yourston wearing him as a belt as he almost charged closer towards that line. Now Scott McClymont looks to try and weave his way in between the bodies, and he does get over. Scott McClymont gets the score, and he gets his 4th try of the season, and he puts further daylight in between these two teams. It's now Selkirk 27, Jedforest 10. And Craig Jackson adds the extras. The conversion is there, and it means that it is now Selkirk 29, Jedforest 10. Returned back downfield. Craig Jackson was lurking there, and he pins the lugs back and looks to try and steal a march on the opposition. Now Lachlan Ferguson can try and go. He brings a teammate into play, bursting off of his wing as Hamilton is quick there to the breakdown. The supporting players for Selkirk will have to be quick to get to this one as well, and Hamilton is there digging about in the ruck. McComb finds Russell Anderson, who busts through, and is Russell Anderson going to go for a score? He dives over. Welcomed his first child last week, and he gets his first score for Selkirk and his first appearance for the Sooters, and it's you'd say that's job done now for Selkirk.
Yeah, absolutely, and what a great try that was as well. Some good running. He really made two defenders have to think on who was going to commit to that tackle, and in that time of their indecision he just said, see you later, and then I'll see you at the end of the game because I'm going under the sticks. That was a great try from him, and it was beautiful play by Craig Jackson as well to spot the space when he got the kick back, returned by the Jed back 3. He managed to take it, really utilised the players coming at such an angle, took control of the situation.
Next, Langham, hooker in Scotland age grade and club representative as well. He gets his first score. It's a week of firsts for Russell Anderson, and it's been capped off nicely with a score, and Craig Jackson adds his influence to this fixture as well with a conversion, perhaps the easiest conversion of the evening in front of the sticks. Finlay Scott, he throws the ball to his captain again, but Andrew McComb just got in between the hooker and the big second row, and now bodies bundling in. There's another sense of deja vu here, because the Hoyt Jed game did filter into a bit of a slugfest in the last 5 minutes, and I do wonder whether this fixture is going to go into a same trajectory. And Jack Hamilton at the back of that ruck, just slowing play down, puts the ball into the air off his left boot, and look, Petty's got his spikes on, and he's clattered Owen Cranston who gathered that ball. He was trying to pirouette out of contact, but Luke Petty showing a lot of energy there as Gary Monroe returns it back downfield. Jack Hamilton just watching that, just bounce in front of his 22 and feeds it over the head of Aaron McComb into the hands of Callum Anderson, left footed kick downfield. Cranston has got no pressure this time and he feeds Lewis Young. Lewis Young just sizing up his options and bounces off his right foot, looks to evade the first challenge, but again he's been well defended. Callum Anderson making the tackle this time. Play now up and towards this halfway line. Finlay Scott getting round the corner to carry in the first phase yet again. In terms of a Jed point of view, he's had a very impressive game as well, and so's that man Dan Wardrop, the second row. He's carried with great endeavour all evening. And Ferreira now, Ricardo Ferreira, he finds Lewis Young, who's got some space in broken field. Now Andrew Sweeney just coming off from the open side to the blind to offer up his support. Now Skeldon just fishing the ball over to Cranston, he evades Ferguson, he looks to try and go inside with Jack Hamilton, but the wiry little scrum half manages just to wrap round the charging Jedforest player. And play now stagnant at the ruck. The referee has spotted a penalty and asks Selkirk to attack from deep, and he does exactly that. He finds a little bit of space, but Aaron McComb quickly fills it. And now Callum Anderson going for a drop kick, and that is the most adventurous effort there from the fullback. And it's been kicked downfield. If this crosses the touchline there, you would imagine that is going to be the final phase of play, and it is just that as Ross Maben blasts his whistle, and the effort from Callum Anderson does not go over the post. Is a very ambitious drop kick there, but it does finish here 36 points to 10.
Just disappointed, to be honest. We came across here believing we had a chance to really put them to the sword and win today, but just discipline killed us. Scrum penalties, just penalties in general in the midfield, and then when we get into their 22, we just drop the ball and then relieves all the pressure off them and back on us. So.
No, look, it's good. I enjoy it. That's my kind of level of rugby. I truck it up, carry, just everything about it. I love it. Didn't get many tries, to be fair, but I enjoyed it. Getting the tries, a bonus, but just getting the win is the main thing. Getting the points on the board. We need to be quicker. If we're in there 22, we need to get the ball out quick. We need to play that kind of physical rugby. But no, I think we stepped up well. We did.
So Selkirk managed to get their bonus try win, and they managed to win by at least 11 points. So they are through to the Border League final. Who they will be playing, we don't know yet. It's still to be decided, but we'll find out maybe who'll be a little bit closer next week as we go to the Green Yards to see Melrose versus Gala. We hope you can join us there, but for now, from all of us here at Philiphaugh, cheerio.